Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your host, Jill Allen. In this two-part episode, I am joined by Dr. Madeleine Goodman, an orthodontist, startup owner, and a national leader in sustainability within the profession. Dr. Goodman is the founder of Harmony Pediatric Dentistry and Orthodontics, past president of MESO, and chair of the AAO's Sustainability Committee. She's here to share her startup journey as a dual specialty and early airway intervention practice, along with how she's focused her practice on bringing environmental sustainability into the ortho world. Change doesn't have to be complicated, it just takes commitment. Listen in for part one. This episode was brought to you by ADEC. Are you thinking about opening an orthodontic practice? I know, it's a big decision, but saving 25% on the ADEC equipment you need to get started, that's an easy one. Because ADEC has a special program called Smart Start, designed to help you launch your first practice. You get up to 25% off your ADEC orthodontic equipment and furniture. You also get complimentary services to help you run and grow your business. And my favorite part, access to the Smart Start pricing for 2 whole years after you open your doors. That gives you flexibility to add more chairs as your cash flow grows. It's pretty smart. As an orthodontist, you care about getting all the little details right, and ADEC really got it right with this program. So if starting off with a big savings on ADEC equipment sounds good to you, the ADEC Smart Start is definitely worth a closer look. Just follow the link in the show notes to learn more. Maddie, I am so excited to have you on Hey Docs. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, this is going to be such a fun topic. I've been excited to get to explore this with you. But before we jump into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to be going through today, I am wondering if you can just kick us off and share a little bit about yourself and your background, your journey into orthodontics, and what inspired you to start your own practice and everything thereafter.
Yeah, so I'm from Bethesda, Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C., and that's where I practice now. My dad was an endodontist, so I grew up around dentistry and I saw how much he loved his job and he worked 4 days a week. And I started working at his office during the summer in 8th grade and continued that through college. So I knew from a young age that this was probably something I wanted to follow in his footsteps. I'd always really liked science and medicine, but I don't like blood and guts. So I ruled out being a doctor pretty early. So when I went to college, I took all the pre-med classes, like the pre-dental classes, but decided to major in something different and useless just for fun since I knew I would be in the science field for my whole life. I majored in classical languages, which is ancient Greek and Latin, and studied abroad in Rome. And so just did the science on the side. And then after that, I applied to dental school, went to dental school, and in dental school, just crossed out every other specialty one by one, kind of ruled them all out. And by the end of dental school, I was like, all right, that leaves ortho, even though I didn't know really anything about it other than having had braces and not having liked them at all. I was like, I might as well just apply and see what happens. And I ended up matching at Tufts and went there after doing a year GPR. I really love Tufts. I actually met my husband there. He was my co-resident. So yes, a little ortho residency love story. And
I hear lots of those actually.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, which is
I'm glad
great.
it's becoming more of a thing.
Yeah.
Now that there are more women in orthodontics. When I was there, it was like I was one of 2 in my class of 8. But anyway, we decided to move back to the DC area after residency. So we just divided up every orthodontist within 60 miles of the city. He emailed half, I emailed half. We each got exactly 1 job offer. And so we took those jobs. He's actually still at the practice he was at originally, which almost never happens. But it's a multi-specialty office, pedo, ortho, general, and he now owns that office with 2 pediatric partners. And so he's there. people ask us a lot, like, did you ever want to work together? And why not? And I tell them we work together at home, and I think it's good to have our own things. We're also
Yeah.
very different personalities, so it just works out better for us.
Yeah.
So now our offices compete against each other, kind of. But anyway. So anyway, then I first associated at an orthodontic office. It was very not good experience. Everyone has to have one of those to make them appreciate the good experiences. But I stayed at that office about a year, and then I happened to find an associateship at a pedo ortho office. It was owned by a woman, Dr. Amy Light, who was dual trained pediatric dentist and orthodontist. But at that time, by that point, she was only doing ortho, and there were also two pediatric dental associates there. So it was a big practice. I went and I helped her out there. About maybe 3 years after I started there, she decided that she wanted to retire, and she offered to sell the practice to one of the pediatric associates and myself. At the time, I just had my first baby, and so the associate, and also it was a huge practice. I still didn't feel very confident clinically for those reasons, and then mostly because she'd also had an offer from a DSO, and they offered her more than the practice was worth.
Sure.
And she wanted us to match that naturally. And we had two valuation companies run the numbers, and they were both like, don't do this. And actually, we were both relieved. We were like, yeah, this isn't a good time for us anyway, so thanks. So anyway, she sold it to the DSO. We then, at that point, she left. It was just me and this other pediatric dentist whose name is Heather Scholander. It was just the two of us there for a while, like 5 years. And it got to the point where we realized that it wasn't going to be a long-term thing for us. So we decided to start our own practice.
Yeah.
And I could go into some details about why we did and what our practice is like.
Yeah, I would love that, because I think that is a lot of my listeners are younger doctors or doctors that have been associating for a while and are in that same situation that you were in. Either they've been associating or working with the doc, and they're getting ready to sell out to a DSO, and they're like, yeah, this is not what I was planning on, or their path to partnership never worked out and they thought that it was going to and didn't. So I would love to hear about that. And then also, I would love it if you wouldn't mind talking to us, because it wasn't just jumping in and doing an ortho solo practice, it was a dual specialty practice. So if you wouldn't mind, I would love it if you would go into that. I'm sure that would help a lot of our listeners when they're wrestling with some of these different opportunities that could be out there for them.
Yeah, at first, working for the DSO, I think, was really, in a way, an invaluable experience for me. Before that, I'd always been an associate to a senior orthodontist. So I'd never treated a case start to finish by myself. I didn't really do any of the consults or the treatment planning. I didn't really have those like hard conversations with parents. So it really took her leaving and me being the only one to rip off that Band-Aid and force me to become more confident clinically and in terms of practice managing parents. And I think doing that without having the added stress of like managing hiring people and getting the plumbing fixed and things that you'd have to deal with your own practice, like allowed me to focus on that, because some people graduate residency and are like, yay, I'm ready to go out and do everything and I can do everything. And that's really not my personality. I needed to like learn from someone else, watch them, and then be like forced to do it myself. It was very stressful for a few years, but then as I became more confident clinically, I had started to have a change of heart. Like maybe I could do this. Like previously, I never thought that I would want to have my own practice. I saw how much it was and it just seemed overwhelming. That's one, is that it took like that push, but also it was just the two of us at the practice for a while. So the perception to patients and parents was that we owned the practice. So then when there would be decisions made from higher up about practice management or like how they treated the team or insurance decisions, we had no part in them. And it often would frustrate patients and would frustrate them. And it was very frustrating for us in a lot of ways. And at that point, we were getting to be more well established in the area since it had been over 10 years that we were there. And it became frustrating. So that was part of the reason that we decided to. At the time, we each had very young kids. We had a lot of responsibilities at home. I'm really sorry.
Oh, you're
My
fine.
lights just turned off. And there's never a good time. But anyway, around that same time when we were getting a little bit more frustrated with things by working for the DSO, we also started to become more interested in like early interceptive treatment and collaborative treatment.
Love
There
that.
was, so our old boss, Dr. Light, had a myofunctional therapist come into the office every week. She'd had that since before we started there. And that's not something I ever learned about in school. I didn't know what it was. This myofunctional therapist was there every week and we became friends, and she taught me a lot about what she did. And I would refer her patients and we would look at them
Hmm.
together. And so I started to find that really interesting. Also, Dr. Light did a lot of early treatment, which I also didn't do very much of in school. We're taught, as I think most residencies operate this way, in a very traditional manner. You wait till a kid's 13 and you take out 4 teeth if they're crowded, and that's the norm. And she was doing things like broadening the lower arch in an 8-year-old and treating like a severe class 2 in phase
Yeah.
1. And at first I was like, she's crazy, what is she doing? But over the years I saw like how these kids, like, we were hardly extracting at all in phase 2. Some kids barely needed a phase 2. I was like, really, this is interesting. I'm into this. So it was those
Yes.
things. And then really the culmination of this was in 2018. I took my ortho team to the in Washington, D.C. And we ended up at this lecture. It was a team lecture, and we actually ended up in this room. We were lost, and it was like by mistake, but we decided to stay. And it was this myofunctional therapist named Joy Muller, and she started talking about airway stuff, which I had literally never heard that. I'd never heard really about about sleep apnea and how the way you breathe influences the way you grow, like very little. She was
Hmm.
talking about how like the foods you eat as a toddler, they strengthen your muscles and this dictates how you grow. And if you are nursing and if you have a tongue tie, and she was saying all these things, and it was literally like a light bulb went off. And I was like, oh my God, like this is the part of everything that I've been missing, like the cases that go south, or like the kid that needs surgery and I don't understand why at 20 he's grown like that. Like it just, I was like,
Hmm.
this is just very interesting. One, two, my son literally had every problem she was listing, and he was 8 months old, and I was like, oh my God, I need to like deal with him. That was three. And then three was I was like, this is what we should do. Like we should set up a
Hmm.
practice that's based on collaborative care, early intervention. This is like a great place to start and focus. So I went back Monday morning to Heather and I was like, we should do this. We should start learning about these things. And that was it. She was like, okay, let's do it. It was like, we just needed that one like idea or like
Yes.
thing to nudge us in that direction. And we, of course, like told all of our myofunctional therapist colleagues, and we told our ENT colleagues, we're like, we're going to start this practice and we're going to screen all the kids and we're going to do all the things. And we both like really went down this like airway rabbit hole. For me, like I'd never been that interested in anything ever.
Mm.
Like every book, every podcast, every article I could find at the time, I looked at, and we tried a bunch of things. We tried the like fringy appliances on our kids. And really now, this is what, like 7 years later, we've come back to the center in terms of being more conservative about all of these things after trying different things. But we really just makes me super happy because we had this vision initially and now we do it.
Mm.
Like we screen every kid, like she screens every kid too for, are they mouth breathing? Do they have problems with feeding? Do they have problems with acid reflux? Do they have speech issues? Like we really, and we have this great network here. And that was really what kicked it off for us.
I love that. And what I think is so interesting is I have so many doctors with the doctors that I work with that are doing startups, and I have been in our industry for 33 years now, which is crazy to say I've been in it for this long, but I definitely have seen the cycle of early phase 1 and into, I think there was a fair amount of practices in the past that did have oral myofunctional therapies and whatnot. And then it went away for a
Mhm.
while and we didn't see that at all. And now I am seeing so many of, I would say, our younger doctors coming out that are so much more in tune to that. And I feel like are really aligning themselves. I think it's great that you were able to do it with a partner where the two of you within your own practice, the pedo and the ortho side, really are just working so succinctly together. But I'm noticing that a lot of my docs are coming in saying, hey, this is something I want to pay attention to. I do want to be addressing and looking at and dealing with airway at a much younger age, and trying to then forge partnerships with pediatric doctors that have similar philosophies and thoughts. And I think what I have seen with a lot of my doctors, when they are able to do that, it has become this really beautiful marriage where both, if a pediatric doc that's concerned about airway is referring to an ortho that's thinking about airway, it's just like that synergy works so well, versus you've got one that's thinking one way referring to another and the other doesn't think that way. And it just almost becomes this clash. And I don't know, I know you guys started it from within your practice, but I don't know if you can speak to that just as you have maybe talked with or counseled other doctors, and how maybe you were even able to, I don't know, I don't want to say overcome that, but I'm sure with referring doctors, there has been some of that the two of you have had to get through too, that maybe some of your philosophies may not be as mainstream as maybe some of our, I'm going to say, senior docs in the community may have thought or done.
Yeah, no, totally. And it makes me really happy to hear that the younger doctors are more into this, because again, in residency, I think maybe it's changed. I graduated like 15 years ago, but it was pretty traditional.
Oh, yes.
And there's still a lot of voices out there who are really not a fan of early treatment. They think it's like over treatment and it's not conservative. But in my mind, taking out 4 bicuspids is the least conservative thing one can do. But again, it's a difference in philosophy. And I really get this all the time, because like anyone, I have a lot of like second and third opinions that come. So I have a spiel down for a lot of my younger patients. In most cases, no, like none of this is mandatory medically. You always have an option to wait. And these are the pros and cons to waiting. These are the risks in waiting. These are the benefits of doing something. Usually there aren't any risks in doing something early. But I totally respect and understand that not every family is going to want to do this. But when I explain to parents why I like treating certain things early and what the benefits could be, it makes really good sense to them. I think that there's that. Also, we hear it from both sides. Like I'll have second opinions where we get the watch and wait, and why are you saying that we should do this now as opposed to waiting until later? I get a lot of, can we just do the expander later? And it's no, the suture starts to fuse around age like 9.5, 10. So in my opinion, it's like, we need to have the conversation with parents by the time they're 7.5 to 8.5, because I want them to get the most out of the first phase. And if you do that, you do it while child is young as possible. In that age range, the bone expands most predictably. And also the side teeth aren't getting loose. Like I do a lot of like buccal uprighting on the lower arch and expansion of the anterior maxilla with braces, or usually braces. So I don't want a lot of teeth getting loose. So I say, if you're going to do it, you should do it now. They don't want you to wait and then not get as much out of it if teeth are getting loose or if the suture's already fused. So anyway, I think it's the way you explain it. But we also get people from the other side of it who come from like the natural dentists who have their own like all the way on the other side philosophy, who there's a lot of like in my opinion, misinformation over prescribing of lingual frenectomies. They're really big on buccal frenectomies, which in the dental literature really isn't a thing. It's educating parents while also not making mad our referral sources who are telling them this, or other colleagues. You never want to throw another colleague under the bus. But no, we do get people in who have exhausted their orthodontic benefits by doing like a healthy start with a dentist. If you know what that is, it's like those mouth guardy appliances, which in my opinion don't really work. So anyway, we get it from both sides. I think that's something that every orthodontist has to navigate in this day and age, because there's so much information on the internet that people are getting from parent groups or from TikTok. The pediatric dentist, we were just talking about this, like someone saw some sort of glow in the dark toothpaste they were asking about. There's just all sorts of things. And it's a constant, every day we tell each other these like stories about someone came in and said X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really
Well,
hard to parse that out. And
oh, for
it's
sure.
hardest for parents because they're
Oh,
hearing three different opinions and three different this. But I think the best thing you can do for them is educate them and give them options and not be like, you have to do this. No, you
yeah.
have different options and it's X, Y, and Z or X and Y. And,
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
them make the best decision.
And now, a word from the sponsors who make this podcast possible. Hey, docs. If you want to have a great business, the right practice management software is essential. But some can be slow, outdated, and lacking good support. That's why I recommend Greyfinch to all orthodontists. It's the fastest, most reliable, and most secure platform to grow your business and improve your efficiency. It's completely web-based, so you can run your entire practice anywhere and from any device with no servers, no downloads, or hidden fees. They even have the most helpful and responsive support team around. Right now, Greyfinch is giving a $500 discount to our listeners. Visit greyfinch.com/Jill Allen to learn more and see why it's one of the fastest growing providers in America. Hey docs, let's talk about Smile Suite, because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud Smile Suite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. Smile Suite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at GetSmileSuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with Smile Suite, because every smile deserves a suite of excellence.
And I think if you wouldn't mind talking to this a little bit, I am sure when you first started your practice, when you and your partner got in and got going, probably how you attacked these things, these situations were very different than where you're at right now. And I think that is part of just growing as a business owner, like learning to stand in your space as where are your philosophies going to be and where are you going to take a stand. And I love very diplomatic. We're not going to throw anybody under the bus, but we've also got to educate to the best of our ability, knowing that they're going to go out and fact check about everything, and who are they going to choose to follow will be the patient's decision. But I'm wondering if you can just talk about that evolution, that kind of thinking back to when you guys started the practice to where you are now, and maybe any advice you can give maybe some of our younger doctors out there. Because like I said, I would tell you that a fair amount of the younger doctors out there now are very much kind of sitting in this space and trying to work their way through it.
Yeah. First of all, at my old practice, I had 5 very well seasoned, well trained assistants. I had a records person and I had a very well trained TC. So I almost never did consults. I would be like, they're ready for treatment. And then the TC would like take over and just give the spiel. And then when we started our own practice, we can't hire a bunch of people. And it's also
Yep.
extremely hard to find a TC. So we hired 2 people in the beginning. We had 1 front desk and 1 clinical who was dual trained, who would help both of us. And that was it. So I was my own TC. And so again, in the beginning, I was so nervous because I'd never really had to do treatment consults, at least not consistently. And at that time, so we opened in November of 2020. So I also was doing some consults on Zoom, and which was awkward too. And there was a lot. And everything takes time. It takes time in orthodontics to know what you're doing, to see cases, to make mistakes, to learn from them. But you're not going to learn and you're not going to progress unless you try, unless you try new things, unless you take on these hard consults and have these hard conversations with the third opinion or when something's not going well. And I think for people who are starting their own practice, to be your own TC is really helpful.
Mhm.
Connecting with parents, because a lot of other offices don't do that, especially busy ones, because the doctor
Yep.
prioritizes their time elsewhere. But I think it really helped me build this practice because we're a startup. We're like 5 years in, still not that busy. Like
Mhm.
I have time to sit down with parents when they first come in, like to their new appointment, sit down with them for a good 20 minutes and I explain all the treatment. I sit down, I talk about everything with them. I also talk about their financials. I still do it. And we probably could have a TC now. I like it. And I don't think I will ever go back because it really helps forge that bond. And I think that parents want that and they need that. And it's something that I feel like I need too. So I make sure that all the points I want to get across in the beginning have gone across. And I think it really helps cut down on miscommunications or misinterpretations later.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
doing things, and I also was doing the hard part about owning your own practice is when a staff person leaves, and I had an assistant leave, and I was forced to then do all these procedures that I had never done. But again, I hadn't done in years, maybe since residency. But I think getting in there and just forcing yourself to do it yourself and remember how to do things, it really helps get things
Yeah.
rolling.
Yeah. And I think it really, with you having this vision and as you guys have moved along in the last 5 years, I think it also helps establish the culture too. What do you want your patients to experience when they come in? And what works for your office for you to be there and to spend the time and to really dive in to a topic that may not be a topic that you can just be like, yep, we're ready for braces when you're running out the door again. When we're talking about airway and early intervention and some of those things that you are doing that are beyond our traditional set of what we would our bread and butter procedures, it does require a little bit more time intensiveness, and I'm sure that's why your patients love it too, because they're getting it from the pedo side on into the ortho side, and it's just this consistency that's rolling through both sides of the practice.
Yeah. The pedo ortho thing, I honestly don't think I could practice any other way at this
Mm.
point, nor would I want to. I think I'm just very used to it, but also I think it's so great. Like we collaborate on almost every patient in one way or another. We're asking each other's
Mhm.
opinions, or it's a great way to track. She will start screening patients from the time they first come in when they're 2 for certain things. And again, I don't treat patients when they're 2. If a
Mhm.
patient is 3 years old and they're in an underbite or they have a crossbite, she's flagging it for them. She's okay, like in a year or something, Dr. Goodman's going to take a look. And there's
Yep.
things that she's starting to work on, like habit breaking and other things like that early. And then so that at the exact time that the child's ready and the parents are ready, then I start to follow at
Mhm.
that point, I have already met them. And that's for some patients, not all of our patients. We don't share all of our patients, but a
Mhm.
lot of them. And just the relationship really lends itself to building that trust. And then if they're not ready, I just see them when they're back for their cleaning in 6 months,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's really such a good relationship. I think what's different about our practice is that we did a startup pedo ortho. A lot of times there'll be like a pediatric dentist who brings in an orthodontist, or
Yep.
sometimes even vice versa. But I think that is out of the ordinary. We did it this way because a lot of things we had already worked together for a long time, and we really enjoyed working
Mhm.
together. We knew we wanted to practice this way, and we were lucky because we were pretty well established in the area. Like we did have a 5 mile restrictive covenant, so we were like 7 miles away, so we were very
Yep.
careful to be respectful of that. But the internet exists and people found us, and we weren't starting at zero kind of thing.
Yeah.
But again, it's not the most usual startup scenario. Like we did use, so at the time we decided we want to do this. It took us about a year and a half from the time we said okay until when we opened our doors, as you probably know.
Yep.
And we both worked full time almost the entire time, basically the entire time, and both had really young kids. And she was also pregnant. There was a lot. So we felt like we needed to have a consultant to help us because we just did not have time to do all the research. We had no idea how to do this. And
Yep.
also there were 2 of us, so we wanted like a neutral third party to tell us,
Yeah.
guide us. So at the time we really only looked at consultants who did general practices, and we found
Mhm.
one, Ideal Practices, and they told us that we were the first partnership dual specialty they'd ever done who weren't married or related. They were like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And we were like, "Yes." And they were like, "Are you sure? Because it usually doesn't work out." And we were like, "Yes." So again, my advice for people looking, I think being in a partnership is amazing. There are things that I don't like to do, like numbers and finances. She's great at it. She does that. I do more like marketing creative. Like we gravitate towards different things. We divide everything up. It's not just me, me. I don't know if I could do this by myself, like dealing with all the transitions with the team and staff issues. And it's just great to have two people. But anyway, for people looking into doing a startup with someone else or having a partnership, I think it's really important to ideally have worked with that person, because you don't have to be best friends, but you have to get along well enough to want to see them every day and have a similar like patient philosophy, financial philosophy, work ethic philosophy. There's a lot of things that kind of have to go. And I do mentor or talk to a few younger orthodontists who are first out, and they'll come to me and be like, what about this opportunity? Or what about that? And I met with the guy and he was saying X, Y, and Z. And I was like, and a lot of times I'm like, that sounds like a red flag. There's a lot of,
Yep.
I mean, there's just, you really, before partnering with someone, you just have to know them pretty well.
Yeah.
But it can be so great. And especially, again, a lot of times it's like, and again, it's what you find and not and what you prefer, but it's usually like an older and a newer. But the fact that we're on the same like age range and family situation range, it actually helps because we have the same priorities right now, which are like we work at work and at home we're with our families, and we don't want to do work outside of work, and neither of us expects us to, and so we want to take time off. And I think that aspect of it helps also.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been great just diving in. And I so appreciate you just opening up and talking about that, what you have went through up to this point and how you guys got here. So if somebody wants to learn more about Tiny Changes recycling program, or maybe if somebody's just, I want to just pick her brain a little bit about early Airway and orthopedo combinations and all of that, what would be the best way to get a hold of you and or to find out more about Tiny Changes?
Sure. So again, you would go to the MESO website, so maso.org, and then there's a bar on the top that says Tiny Changes Recycling Program. You click there. On that page, first of all, we just made a commercial, which kind of visually can display some information about the program. But then you scroll down and you can click the tabs depending on whether you need your first box or subsequent box. If you keep going down, there are some other tabs on the left. One is FAQs and instructions. So TerraCycle actually wrote that for us, and that has some information about like how they recycle, about the company, and about what to do. And then there's another tab that says become a sponsor. And most of our bigger sponsors are orthodontic supply companies and aligner companies. However, we do have a number of orthodontic offices who have become small sponsors. So we have a whole range of sponsorship opportunities.
I love that.
Starting at $250 up to $15,000. And so if you sponsor us, you get your logo on our next generation of boxes, you get your logo on our website. And so anyone can be a sponsor if they want to. And then there's also, it says, see who's taken the pledge, and that's a list of all the offices that have signed up so far. I think as of now, we have about 370 offices who are doing it throughout the US, and that number is growing every day. And then down further, you have like links to our social media. Again, it'd be really awesome if people could follow us on Instagram. Our goal for that is just to have like other information about other ways you can be sustainable. And the young people in my office and my intern help me make it not boring. And that's basically it. If you want to email us, the Tiny Changes email is checked by myself and answered by myself. You're welcome to email me about the practice too. Our email address is tinygreenchanges@gmail.com. And that email address is also on our website somewhere.
Great.
So just email me there. It's me who's answering, even though it says it's from Tiny Changes. It's just...
Yeah. Oh, I love it. One of the ways I like to finish up Hey Docs is I like to finish this up with a little speed round.
Let's do it.
All right. What is one industry challenge you think will shape the future of the way we work?
So again, I think that we talk about this too, and I think it's just so many areas of opinion and science and news and all sorts of things coming at people and prospective patients all the time, that they often come in with preformed opinions that they've gotten from non-medical sources. So whether it be social media or the internet, TikTok, what have you, I think it's how do we talk about those things with them? How do we navigate that? Yeah. And how do we navigate having differing opinions with other practitioners who may have referred them and have differing opinions than we do. So I think it's just navigating those relationships and navigating those information sources has gotten pretty difficult in this day and age.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.